game we'll be doing, so I'll just name this Clicker Tutorial. Use Java SE-1.8. That is what we'll be using as a JRE, and just hit finish. I'm using Eclipse. It's the pretty good software to use. I'll create a package, com.clicker.tutorial.main. In this, we're only going to use one class. So you can name that class whatever you want. I will name it main. And let's first make our constructor. Our constructor is basically kind of a main part of it. Not a main method, which is this, but I kind of use it to make the main part of my JFrame because that's easiest. The main method is the first thing that renders in it. So to get started, we're going to extend JFrame. And if you notice, I have a little error here. If you're using Eclipse, hit Control-Shift-O or Command-Shift-O for Mac, and it'll import this. If you're not, just import javax.swing.jframe. Keep that there. Notice you have a error here. Not error, but warning. Just make your serial version UID, which is not very much reason to go into that right now. So to start, we'll name it Super Clicker Tutorial. Super will just set the name of the JFrame. And yeah, so now we have our name. I am going to add a size to this. And since we're going to be creating a game, we don't want to hard code everything. We can do public int width equals 1080 and height equals 920. Notice that I put a comma right here. Right here. There we go. That's just meaning that height is going to be a public integer. So, if you see here, we've now set our width and height. The way we're doing this makes it so much easier by extending JFrame because you don't have to make a variable like JFrame frame equals new JFrame. You don't have to do any of that. It takes so much more time. So this is more convenient. We'll set default close operation to true. No, not true. JFrame.exit on close. Set location relative to null. Okay, these two are pretty basic things. What the default close operation is when you hit the X button, it basically says what do you do when you hit X. Set location relative to means like where do you want it in your screen. Setting it to null is the middle of the screen. Now, after all of this, set visible to true. Now, you need to have visible to true because otherwise you can't. Okay, now that we have visible to true and all of this set up, let's try running it. Run. Nothing happens. That's because we haven't made this run in our main method. So make a public static main. What this is doing is it's making a variable of the type main called main. And doing this, we can just do main equals new main. Run the code. And we have our JFrame. Now, we want to be able to click and type, right? So let's implement a key listener. and I'll import that right here. Import.java.awt.event.keyListener. I can zoom in for this. And I will add unimplemented methods here in main, and we'll get key pressed, key event, all this stuff. Now, I don't like this arg0, so I'm just gonna make that E. I'll just quickly do that. And all of that is E. Now we have this. I'm going to close these out for now, because now we need to add a key listener into main and call it this. That way we can test this by saying if key pressed system.out.println I work. Yay. Okay. So now we're gonna test it. Note, you have to know some basic Java to follow this tutorial series, and just as I hit a button, we get I work, I work, I work. Cool. Now that we know that works, you can close out of that and add mouse listener. Notice we get an error. That's because we need to import. Imports here. Add unimplemented methods. Pretty much the same thing. I'm not going to show you that the mouse works because it's the same thing. You should just believe, I guess. And if you're auto making these, just add this part in. Mouse clicked, mouse entered, mouse exited, mouse pressed, and mouse released. Otherwise you'll get an error. I'm going to quickly replace that arg0 with EVT, which is standing for event. This makes it just simpler for me to think of when I'm writing my code. Okay, now that all of that is there, I will add a mouse listener. Okay, so we have all this wonderful stuff, but one more thing we need to set up in our JFrame. Painting. Paint graphics G, import graphics, and there you have it. Now, this code is kind of hard to explain, so instead of just typing it up and showing you, I'll paste it over from my reference and just show you from there. Let me quickly find it. Here we are. Okay. Here it is. And I will explain in here. Okay. Delete that. Okay. So, first things first. This is a buffer strategy. What a buffer strategy is basically, in a short and simple way, it makes your JFrame repaint without flickering. It's a pretty cool method that's often used in making games, so we're going to use that for this. If you see an error here, it's because the variable BS isn't there, so we will create that up here of type buffer strategy. We get an error because that doesn't exist. Just import buffer strategy. Now we have a pretty hefty list of imports here. And add buffer strategy. We'll see where you add that. course, we are right here. Create buffer strategy. And we will do this.get buffer strategy. Now we have created it and we have it. Save this, and that's just about it. To prove that it works, we'll put in our try part, draw, no, not draw, fill, sorry. 30, 30, 30, 30. That'll just draw a rectangle there. And here we have it. There we go. Okay, that's all for today. Thanks for watching, and check out the next tutorial for more on JFrame. Okay, so we are creating